Hey everybody, welcome back to the Covenant Cast, where we talk about our Christian faith, our marriage, and our personal relationship with Jesus. Last episode, we talked about ourselves a little bit with the introductions. We were kind of introducing ourselves and who we are and how we met and what's been our background leading up to our marriage. Today, we're going to go ahead and get into details about our marriage a little bit more in depth with what marriage has been like, how it's going, what was our first year like, what were some of the challenges, what are some of the things that we've learned. So one of the first things that we actually wanted to talk about, what was one of the most important things we learned in the first 5 years of marriage. So just to kind of recap, we've almost been married for 5 years. This August 22nd, it'll be 5 years. Goes by super fast. So within 5 years, what's been like one of the most important things? And I could probably go off of a list and just tell you like 20 different things, honestly, that are on my mind. But if I could think of one, at least for me personally, because I know it's going to be subjective for everybody what their most important one was. For me, I'm going to go ahead and say that the most important thing that I've learned or that I've had to like really focus on is just forgiveness. And more specifically, forgiveness obviously between each other. Because when you guys first get married, like any other couple, it's like two people coming together with two different worlds, two different experiences in their life. And they're gonna have to come together and learn how to basically coexist with each other in the same house for the rest of their life. And so people come from a whole bunch of different backgrounds, whether you're raised differently, like she was raised differently than I was. For example, we were talking about it, like one of the things that was different is that I always ironed my clothes, and when we got married, she wanted to iron my clothes, and I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, you're not ironing your clothes, I am. I was like, why? I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, yeah, I'm gonna iron your clothes for you. I was like, no, it's okay, I've got it. She goes, no, you're not supposed to do that. I go, what do you mean I'm not supposed to iron my clothes? I'm fine with ironing my clothes. Little differences like that. And those are like some of the smaller differences. There's other bigger differences where it's just like, some of the things that you may believe, some of the ways that you handle challenges, how do you interact with people, how do you respond to certain things. Like those are the things where it starts to get more intense, more serious, more important, where you have different experiences. And that can kind of start to lead to some of the tensions that arise because, again, you're living with this person, you're waking up next to this person, you're going to sleep with this person, you're doing everything with this person. And so, with your spouse, it's not just a person, but you're doing everything with them. And so you're going to eventually stumble across some times where you guys just disagree. Maybe you guys get into an argument, whether it's a big argument, a small argument, whatever it is. One of the things that I've heard a pastor say multiple times is that, let's just say you and your spouse get into an argument. If 99% of the argument was her fault and 1% of it was my fault, that means I am still wrong at least 1%, and I have to own my 1% because 1%, how did it go? Even my 1%, I have to own 100%. That's some math, okay? So I heard that, I was like, whoa. I guess that is true. Yeah. I heard that when I was still engaged with her, even when we were dating. And so I'd kind of been practicing that while we were dating and when we were engaged. Again, it takes a whole new form. Once you're married, it gets much more difficult. It doesn't come as easy. But one of the things I try to practice is that whenever we were arguing and I would be apologizing and stuff like that, and she'd still keep going maybe a little bit. And then the moment she said, I'm sorry, the switch just went off and it was done. Once I knew that she was actually apologizing and asking for forgiveness, I would immediately let her know that, I forgive you. It's okay. Let's just go ahead and continue. Let's move on. I don't want to be mad at each other right now. I want to be able to enjoy the rest of our day. And I try to do that as best as I could, just because it is hard sometimes. Sometimes you're still hurt after the fact. It's not like when you say I forgive you, all the pain just goes away from the big argument that you had. It's still there sometimes. And so forgiving each other is going to be like one of the most important and probably one of the most challenging things that you do. And I think of the example that Christ set for us and the way that he tells us in Ephesians, to love your wife as Christ loved the church. Yes, so love your wife as Christ loved the church. And I think of what's the biggest way that Jesus showed his love for us was through the cross, by forgiving us and showing us mercy. And so the best way that I can show love to my wife in my eyes is to be able to forgive her just as Jesus forgives us every single day. And those are things there's some things that we commit that are just terrible, And so to forgive her the way Jesus forgives us, I try to take on that challenge of doing that, because it is a challenge to do that as closely as I could, as best as I could. And I'm not perfect. I can't sit here and say that every time that she said I'm sorry, I was like, oh, we're good, don't worry about it. It's not like that. It still is pretty difficult, but I can say that being able to forgive each other fast and quickly, and where you actually mean it, it helps out, I mean, a ton. It just goes a really long way for you, but for you and your spouse to forgive each other and move on in an argument, even though it may be a really explosive argument, you guys are both hurt, but to still forgive each other, especially before the day's up, which we'll get to later, that's a huge deal. I think that would be like the most important thing that I've learned just within 5 years of our marriage almost.
Because right when we got married, you were pretty good at forgiving me right away, but I think it was me that was just like, no.
There you go.
I was a little bit harder for me. It was harder for me to like say I'm sorry, but throughout the years, it's been, I guess, has it been better?
Oh yeah, no, it's again, it's obviously the first year. It's you're figuring each other out is more difficult. I think she had a harder time of forgiving me, and I would always say, hey, I already forgive you. Why can't you forgive me? And like,
it's because he always messed up. I'm just kidding. It was always his fault.
It was always my fault. It was your fault you couldn't forgive me. It was easy. Want me to say that?
I'm just kidding. So for me, I would say the most important thing that I've learned since we've gotten married was just sacrificing. When you get married, that's all you're gonna do. Like when you get married, you're gonna sacrifice anything for your partner. Like whether it's where I would, for example, like I would wake up like at 6:30 to make him breakfast before he would go to work. And I would be so tired, but I knew I had to wake up to make him breakfast because I knew he was gonna be hungry. And that was just me like sacrificing, me being tired to make him food, even though it was really hard to do. There's like small examples. Or he would sacrifice, like when we got married, where he would stop playing video games when, I would come home from work or something like that, where I would notice that he would sacrifice playing video games with his friends and turn off his Xbox or whatever it was and just like spend time with me. It's like little things like that where you have to sacrifice, because if not, I feel like that's when, you get into fights where you say, well, I did this for you today. Like, why didn't you do that for me? Or you know what I mean? Like it kind of turns into like a competition, which it shouldn't be. But that was like my main thing when I for sure got married. I wanted to make sure that I sacrificed a lot so that he knew that I was putting, our marriage first. Well, except for God and then our marriage first. I also put wanting to serve, because I think it's like the same thing, right?
It kind of goes hand in hand. Yeah. Sacrificing and serving kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, I guess like that was like something that really stood out to me, because when I was living at my mom's house, I didn't have to do any of that. Like I didn't have to serve my sisters like food or clean the house, because my mom did all of that. But right when you get married, like it's like a big shock where you're like, dang, like I can't put myself first anymore. Like I have to put, him first, so that he feels like I'm serving him. I wrote down the Bible verse, Mark 10:45, where it says, "For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve." So Jesus was like a perfect example for us too. He just showed us that we're here to serve others and not to be served. So I guess that's one thing that really stood out to me was, you really are gonna have to sacrifice a lot when you get married. And that's okay to do, because you get practice with your husband or your wife, and then you start being like that with other people, like it's not just in marriage where you're like that, where you're sacrificing, where you're serving others. You have to also apply that to the people outside of your marriage, because the Lord literally said, Jesus did that, when he's like so perfect, but he didn't come here to be served. He came here to serve, which is a perfect example of how we should be, especially in marriage. That's very important.
Yeah, and that's another thing that's not easy. Like sacrificing, giving up what you want to do what you have to do, or maybe, like for me, when I would play video games, I think she kind of understated it a little bit. I would play video games a lot in college. Like I would just go crazy. I would stay up till 3 a.m, then go to class at like 8:30 in the morning. I was dead tired. So nothing stopped me. But until once I got married, I knew the day was coming. I was like, dude, like I'm literally going to give up video games for my wife. And I knew it was gonna happen. Like there was not gonna be this thing, because I'll be honest, I would listen to some of the people I would play Xbox with, and it was like older dudes that were still at home while their kids were running around, and the wife was having to take care of them. Like I'm not gonna be like that. I will not be. I refuse to be like that. So I'm just gonna cut it off early, and we're not gonna play. I probably had like, I could probably count on my hands how many times I played Xbox when we were married,
Yeah.
to where I actually sat down and just like played it.
Yeah.
When back then, before we were married, I would play it
Played a
literally every day.
Yeah.
Like every single day I was on that thing.
Yeah.
And so that was a big sacrifice that I had to make. And I know that for her sacrifices were just like daily routine things, like waking up early, getting me food. Even though I was used to getting food, she would still want to do it for me, cleaning the house when I was at work, things like that, to where I would just see her serving and giving up her time and her energy for me. That makes you want your spouse a lot more. You see that they're putting you first, and then it makes you want to put them first even more so too. So once you give some, you get some in return, and you kind of just keeps on swinging the pendulum where it just goes back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah.
And so you just kind of you're gonna have to learn to do that. I mean, if you can't sacrifice, then it's gonna be a big problem. If you can't serve in marriage, it's gonna be a big problem. You're gonna start to see problems arise, like she said. Well, why aren't you doing this for me? I did this and this and this today. I cleaned the house, I mopped, I swept, I washed the dishes, and you haven't done anything for me. And that's when it starts to, become a problem. When you start, and those are like little things. Just amplify it with the bigger things. Taking care of the kids. Going to do, I don't know, who knows what, take them to the doctor, whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so the second question that we wrote down, and these are just questions that we've thought of throughout marriage. We've talked about multiple times. People have asked us, just out of curiosity, like people from church, like would ask us questions like this. So these are just basic questions that probably most people already want answered, or they already have that question themselves,
Yeah,
or they've
they're
thought about it.
curious
Yeah, they're
about it.
curious about it. Yeah, exactly. The second question. So, what would you change about the first 5 years of our marriage?
Do you want to go first or me?
I went first last time, so I'll let you go first.
Okay. So what I put down was to be a lot more patient in the beginning. It's like I said, like
I don't know her answers,
Yeah, no,
so I don't know what she wrote down. So
you
this
can
is
tell he knows what I'm talking about. I would say obviously like to be more patient because, like I said, it's just like a huge shock when you get married. That
I'm just so annoying.
no, it's just like one example, like we would brush our teeth at night, and he would tell me like, why do you roll the toothpaste?
No, why
like,
don't you roll
Why don't you roll the toothpaste?
She's the person that squeezes the tube from the middle and then just drops it on the sink. I'm like, no.
So there's like a lot of stuff that happens when you get married that you did not know like what that person did, or even though I thought I knew him a lot when we were dating, but once you get married, it's like completely like, it's not like the opposite person, but it's not what you expect. So I would say that, what would I change about it was just to be more patient, because I feel like that caused a lot of arguments when we got married, because I kind of wanted like a perfect person, I guess. When I got married, I thought you were going to be like
her.
No. Well,
in a way, not a perfect person, but her expectation was to be like her.
Yeah.
In a way.
So anything that he would do, like I would just kind of like trigger me, and that's when I noticed that I wasn't being as patient anymore. And I'm pretty sure you saw me as a patient person, I guess, when we were dating. I guess because we never really argued as much, but
no,
but
I would say so. Yeah.
I guess so. Like it completely just changed like my mindset when I got married. I was like, dang, like now that I think about it, I should have been more patient with you. I still should be, I think I do a better job with it now.
Oh, yeah. Well, 5 years later,
After a couple of years later, but in the beginning, like my patience was not there. But again, I think it's because it's such like a drastic change in your life when you get married, where it's like everything is just like triggering you. Like you see them do something, you're like, oh my gosh, or they say something, you're like, oh my gosh, or little things like that. But I would say I think that's like the most important thing.
The emotions are still at the surface.
Yeah, I would say patience for sure. But I think I've gotten better with it.
Yeah, she definitely has. I know that there would just be certain things where it would trigger her, and then I would just see her quiet, and I'm like, dude, no, like, what did I do? Like, guys, you know what I'm talking about. Something happens, and you see that your wife or your fiance, something happened, and their mood switches, and you're like, dude, what did I just do? Like, what did I do? What did I do? Like, did I like look at her weird? Or did I go on my phone for 3 more seconds? Did I not text back with 3 hearts? Like, you start questioning your whole life, and you're like, dude, what did I do? And then you ask, and then she's like, no, everything's fine. I'm like, oh gosh, don't give me that. Please don't give me that. And it would just be like one of those things where I would have to like ask her, like, no, just tell me what's wrong. And she was just so frustrated because I did, again, small things. It was like small things, like those things that I just mentioned. It was probably something like that, you know, not that severe, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was just like, dang, man, this is harder, because then when she would lose her patience, it would test my patience, because it was hard to interact with her when she was, you know, when she was frustrated. And so I was like, dang, now it's testing my patience. So, yeah.
Yeah, so that's one thing I would for sure would change. is
But
my
you're a lot
patience.
better.
Oh, thank God, I know. I think so. There's some days where it's hard, but
Yeah, just girls are gonna be girls. You can't blame them. Just blame Eve. So number 2, well, it was, what would you change about the first 5 years? Dang. Honestly, this is one of those things where I still struggle with it. But if I could just change one thing within the first 5 years, men, if you're listening to this, just put the phone down. Honestly, just put the phone down and spend time with your wife. We had gotten pregnant very early, within like 3 months of getting married. Okay, we lost our first baby, but once we had our second baby, the Lord kind of blessed us in a way to have more time with each other. And even then, like a year and like 9 months went by until we had our daughter. I still feel like that was so short of a time to have with her, because I did not cherish it enough. I spent too much time on my phone, still watching YouTube, still playing video games, wasting time, you know, just doing random things on my phone. And I just didn't know how to just put it down and just converse with her, just to talk with her. What did you do at work today? How did it go today? You know, what's been on your mind? Basic talk, just regular, simple questions, you know, what normal human beings talk about. And this is like one of the worst things that's gonna distract you from having that quality time with your wife. Just trust me, just put the phone down. You're gonna see how much you guys actually bond with each other, because this was actually a problem. She actually would get frustrated with me, because now that we were living with each other, I was on my phone, you know, quite a bit when I was engaged, but she didn't see me on my phone that often, because, you know.
you would even tell me to get off my phone. when we're
Yes,
engaged.
but it's because I would put away my phone when I would meet up with her for like 4 or 5 hours, and then once I went back home, then I'd go right on my phone. So throughout the majority of the day, I could be on my phone, but those 4 hours I would be with her. Once we got married, well, we're with each other all the time. So now she kind of sees how much I'm really on my phone. And she would get so mad at me. She's like, why are you still on your phone? I'm like, well, this is just how much I'm normally on my phone. And she's like, yeah, but you don't want to be with me? And I'm like, where did you get that from? And she's like, well, you're on your phone still. You've been on your phone for the past 3 hours. And I'm like, has it been 3 hours? I was like, oh my gosh. And I just wasted so much time. I just wish I would have that time back to just enjoy it with you, instead of just remembering all the useless, because I don't remember. I don't remember the things I did on my phone. Those the first almost 2 years with just me and her, I don't remember the things I did on my phone. If it was worthwhile, if it was important, I would have remembered it. But I don't. And so just not putting the phone down is a big regret, really, really big regret. And it just takes away from the time that you have to enjoy with your spouse, because once you have kids too, then you really don't have time.
Oh yeah.
You really don't. Like,
And you also don't want your kids just watching you on your phone.
yeah, you don't want to be on your phone all the time either, while your kids are asking for your attention. So it's just, once you have kids, both of our attention goes to the kids now. Now it's not just us two. We can't just give each other time. It has to be towards our daughter, who was first. We have to put time towards our daughter. And we found ourselves like, dude, like, when can we go on our next date? Like, please, like, mom, dad, take the kid and let's just go on an hour-long date, at least an hour long, please. And you just find that you're just like scrambling for time with each other. When before we had so much, and instead I just chose to be on here. So number 3, what is the hardest lesson you had to learn about marriage? Can I pick one?
Wait, what?
What's the hardest lesson you had to learn about marriage?
Okay.
So far within the first 5, there's a lot of hard lessons I've learned. Obviously through experience. I wish I didn't have to experience them. I wish I just could have learned them without having to experience them. One of the things that I had to learn, and again, it just kind of is tying into some of these other things that we've talked about, for me, is that you can't change your spouse no matter how hard you try. As bad as I wanted her to be more patient, and as badly as I wanted her to be able to forgive me as fast as I forgave her, me telling her to forgive me faster, me getting mad at her to be more patient with me, didn't do anything. It didn't help. For me, what I learned is that, okay, instead of me lecturing her every single time, I'm just gonna lead by example. I'm gonna shut my mouth. I'm gonna lead by example. I'm just gonna give it to the Lord. And ultimately what ended up happening is that the Lord did change her. And it wasn't because of me. It wasn't because of how smart I was or how much sense I made. That definitely wasn't the reason why she started to be more forgiving. It's because the Holy Spirit convicted her of that and showed her like, hey, you know what? You need to forgive the way that I forgive you. And that's ultimately what changed her. Okay, your turn.
Okay. Okay, so I kind of said like kind of the same thing.
Did you?
I put the hardest lesson that I had to learn about marriage was that my partner isn't perfect and I can't expect my partner to be perfect. Because I think that was like a main thing when we got married was, I don't know, I just expected him to know what I was thinking. I expected him to not do anything wrong. I expected him to not tell me anything wrong. I expected him, you know.
Dang.
I expected like a perfect person, but in reality, first of all, I'm not perfect. And second of all, he's not perfect. So I had like that mindset that he was never gonna not treat me bad, or he was never going to get me upset or, you know, do anything that will make me mad. But I should have had that mindset going into marriage, because it honestly caused a lot of arguments, because I thought, well, why is he saying that? And that would cause an argument. Or why is he doing that? Or and that would cause another argument, because I thought he was going to do, that he shouldn't be doing that stuff. But in reality, he's just a human like me. So he was making mistakes. But in my head, I wanted a perfect person. I thought I was marrying someone perfect. But
Dang.
no one is.
Was
No
it
one's
that good in
perfect.
the engagement? You're mean.
Just kidding. No, but honestly, that's like one of the hardest lessons that I had to learn, because I feel like a lot of people, when they marry someone, you know, like, I guess they don't really expect for their partner to, you know, be doing that many mistakes or stuff like that, but they expect like their partner to be perfect, but no one is. So it kind of like made me realize like I can't view you as that, because that would just get me more mad whenever he would do something. I would just get so upset about it. But I would say like that's probably one of the hardest lessons that I had to learn about marriage. Don't expect your partner to be perfect, because you're not perfect, and they're going to make mistakes just as much as you're going to make mistakes. So
I think an even better or more practical way to say it is that your expectations for your partner. I think that's what it was. That your expectations were so high for me.
Yeah.
Obviously, you didn't
Yeah.
think I was perfect, but your expectations were like so high in every single aspect. I was like, I can do my best to reach them, and when I fail, I can say, please forgive me. I'm going to try my best to do better.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I would do. There's nothing else I could do. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I'm going to do better. And that's what I would tell her every single time that I would mess up. But I did realize that her expectations were high for me. I'm like, dang, man, like, I got to be texting back on the dot, dude, or else it's meltdown time.
no.
No, that was like the dating phase. But yeah, I kind of started figuring that out. What you're telling me?
Yeah.
I figured that out on my own. I'm like, dang, dude, she really has the bar set. Like, I don't know who I was in the dating and engagement phase, but I can only blame myself, because apparently I was just like the guy. I was that guy. And when I got married, I just wasn't that guy. So it just made it a lot harder. But yeah, I think the one thing that I told her is that I did bring that up to her. I approached her with that. And I said, look, I'm not perfect. I said, the only thing that's going to help each other is if we learn to forgive each other. And I kept hammering home forgiveness. I was like, look, we're both going to keep making mistakes. We're both going to keep messing up. The easiest way for us to continue to heal and to just get better at this marriage thing is if we just learn to forgive each other, because the mistakes are not going to stop. We're going to end up hurting each other intentionally or unintentionally one day or another. It's going to happen. And so the only thing that we can do, and the best thing that we can do, is forgive each other the way that Jesus forgave us. You know, when I ask you to forgive me, when we ask Jesus to forgive us, Jesus doesn't sit back and think about it for the next day or two and say, I'll get back to you of whether or not I'll forgive you or not. If you mean it at the heart level and you truly ask the Lord to forgive you and you're actually being repentant about it, the Lord's going to forgive you. If you guys are Christians and you can remember the time that you were actually saved, like the day that you were saved, the day that you repented, Jesus forgave you instantly. This was not like a year-long process where he kind of made you file some paperwork and see that if you're qualified to become saved. The moment that you truly asked for forgiveness and you repented from all that stuff, you were saved, you know? And so I wanted to forgive her that way. And I continued to drive that home. Like, we need to be able to forgive each other, because I think your expectations are a little bit too high for me, and I can't attain those expectations. It's impossible.
Yeah, so I would say that's the hardest lesson that I learned, which is like, from the outside, it's like, now that I hear myself saying that, it's like, well, duh, like, why would you expect that from your husband? But I guess
why would you?
But I guess that's the lesson that I've learned.
Yeah.
Throughout the first year, actually.
That was
more now.
I think,
but...
I think the first year and a half, it was when it was like more so. Because, I'd say so.
So number 4, the last one. If you can give any advice to newlywed couples, what would it be? You want me to go first, or do you?
No, you go first. Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I put is to put God first and then your spouse. I feel like we hear that a lot when you get married, like, make sure you put God first, because God's going to be the center of your marriage. But it honestly is like the best advice that you can give any newlywed, because when you...
Better than mine that I'm going to? No,
Pretty sure. Because when you put God first, like, you can think, oh, well, it's because I don't want to love my spouse less if I put God first. But in reality, like, he should always be your number one, God. And if you're putting God first in your marriage, that doesn't mean you're going to love your spouse less. It's actually just going to show that you're actually showing them even better love, because if you're going based off of the Bible and what God tells us in the Bible, which is to love and to be patient and, self-control, he gives us like the wisdom to like act in our marriage. You know what I mean? So like, if God is in the foundation, first is God the foundation, and then you add things on it like marriage and stuff, it's really not gonna, it's not gonna be shaken, because if you have God as your foundation, then, it's literally gonna be pretty much impossible to, how do I say it? It's just not gonna be shaken. Like, your marriage won't be shaken because of that. But I think I've heard someone say that there's like 3 people in this marriage. It's God, me, and you, and you make that covenant with God too when you get married. And if you have God in your marriage, like, and if you put God first in your marriage, then before your marriage, then honestly, like, the Lord's really going to bless your marriage with that, because I don't know how people do it without putting God first in their marriage. I feel like that.
It just doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
It may look like it works. It may look like they're happy. You may see them on social media with great pictures, but
yeah, it doesn't work. Like, I literally see how it's like so impossible for me to even imagine me not putting God first, you know? Because he literally teaches us in his Bible how to love. And if you don't have that, then I do not see how it works.
Yeah.
But I would say, like, that's for sure an advice that I would give any newlywed couple.
Yeah, and there was a sermon that I was listening to where a pastor said, it's never happened in the history of history where a man and a woman who love God more than anything else come together and have a broken marriage, or where they split up. He goes, it's never happened. He goes, I don't even have to look at the history books. He goes, that just doesn't happen. Yeah. People who love God and fear him and want to know him and put that first in their life, set that as their foundation, right? It's never going to happen to where your marriage is going to be in shambles. You guys leave each other, you guys separate. Because if you guys have those foundational things, self-control, love, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, you have all those core foundational things that you need in Christ first. Imagine how much easier it's going to be to love your spouse with patience, to forgive your spouse, to put your spouse first, to do all those things. If you're already practicing that with the Lord, sacrificing that time for the Lord, spending time with him, it's going to follow along in your marriage.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to follow along in your marriage.
Yeah.
And I've always envisioned it like a pyramid where it's you and your spouse right here, and God is at the top of the pyramid. And if you guys are getting closer to God at the same time, you and your spouse are going to get closer to each other. And that's just honestly how the math works. Yeah. That's honestly how the math works. And the further away you get from God, the further away you're going to get from each other. That's just how it is. And for most couples that I see with where they're not Christian and it looks like they have a happy life and stuff, like, nobody knows what happens behind closed doors. Nobody knows. Yep. They may put up a front on social media that shows that they are so happy and they love each other and it's just the best thing ever. I'm sorry, but I just don't see how that's even possible
Yeah.
to know how to love your spouse when you don't even know the person who is the
created
definition
love.
of love. Yeah, who is the
Or the
definition of
definition of
love.
love, yeah.
Who is love, exactly, who shows the greatest love. If you don't even know that person, if you don't even know Jesus himself, how do you expect to know what real love is or how to love correctly, the right way?
Yep.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Yeah. So
Great one. That was a good one.
let me hear yours. Oh, well, that's pretty good too.
No, it
it
is.
is
Yes,
good,
it
it
is.
is
Shoot. Okay. Well,
I mean, the Bible does talk about it. So.
yeah. So the one that I chose, and the question again is, if you can give any advice to newlyweds, what would it be? Gosh, this one is one that I've like hammered home to like everybody that I've talked to that's ever been married. I'm a teacher, and I have students, and one of my students, he's a senior. He got married like at the end of his senior year. I was like, dang, at least doing it the right way, where he's getting married first. And you know, I don't know how his life is right now and everything. Everybody's got their own things going on. But he got married, and I told him the same thing. Don't go to bed angry. Don't do that, please. Just for the sake of your marriage, for the sake of your sanity, don't go to bed angry. I have seen this become like a regular thing with people, and it goes back to this forgiveness idea, and pride even ties into this a little bit too. When people feel like they're right, why on earth would they go and try to fix things if they're not the ones who caused the problem, right? Why would they go up to their spouse before the night's over and say, hey, I'm sorry for doing nothing, if they don't think that they've done anything wrong? And that's what happens with a lot of spouses. They don't think that they've done anything wrong, and so they're like, well, why do I have to go and fix things? Why do I have to apologize? Why do I have to go be the person that asks for forgiveness? Why do I have to do that? And they feel that pride in them that's like, you know what? I'm right, they're wrong. It's their job to come up to me and do it. And if your spouse is thinking the same thing, then no one's gonna do it. And then guess what? Simple math tells me that when you guys wake up, you're still mad at each other. You're still thinking about what happened yesterday. You're still thinking about, well, why didn't he say sorry first? Why didn't she say sorry first? He was wrong, she was wrong. And then yesterday's problem becomes today's problem. For me, I'm a very simple guy. I like today's problems to stay in today, okay? Tomorrow has enough worry of its own. I'll worry about tomorrow when it comes. Why would I want to drag yesterday's problems into tomorrow? Why on earth would I want to do that? Just to overload myself even more. But it's only happened very, very, very few times in our marriage where I have allowed yesterday's problems to become today's problems, in the sense where, like, let's just say there's been times where she's upset and she's gone to sleep angry. For me, I've always been very firm on it. It's like one of like my biggest rules that we've had set for our marriage is that we're not going to go to sleep angry. We're not going to be going to sleep angry, because the moment that we do that, we're allowing the enemy to have wiggle room to move in between us and start to divide us and separate us. And that's exactly what the Bible says. It says, don't let the sun go down on your anger. Don't let the sun go down on your anger, because you're giving the enemy a foothold. Yeah. And the moment that you do that, you're already setting the stage for tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to start with a cup of coffee and a nice big heaping argument. And that's not what I like. Yeah. I would rather stay up till 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, which we've done before on at least one occasion. I think maybe once. Yeah. Stayed up till like 5 in the morning. We're like, oh, is that the sun? Oh my God. I was like, dude, I'm not giving up. I was like, we are gonna fix this. The sun's coming through our apartment windows, like, ah. I was like, hurry up and fix this. I want to go to sleep.
Good thing we didn't have kids at that time.
We didn't have kids at that time. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'll never forget that. Where I saw the sun coming up, I'm like, dude, there is no way. There is no way. And I was like, I am not giving up on this. We slept all right, but we didn't sleep till way later. I promise you, it's so much more worth it to lose your sleep, go to sleep for 2 hours, and wake up happy with each other. It's so much worth it. I would rather do that, because a few times that it's happened where we've let it slip by, where we go to bed angry at each other, the whole day is ruined sometimes, the whole day, because it's like nobody wants to be the first one to say sorry. Nobody wants to be the first one to ask for forgiveness. And this is where you take a nice glass of water, you swallow your pride, and you're the first one to say, you know what? Forgive me for X, Y, and Z. Even if you don't think that you've done anything wrong, forgive me for arguing. Forgive me for allowing this to happen. Forgive me for whatever it may be. Be the person that steps up and actually starts the healing process by asking for forgiveness. be that mature spouse that you need to be for your husband, for your wife, whoever it is. You have to have that sort of maturity, because this nonsense where you guys, go to bed angry, that's high school stuff. That's what kids do. That's what high school couples do. They go to bed angry and they don't text each other for a week. They don't talk to each other for 3 days. That's child's play. That's immaturity at its finest. Yeah. Going to bed when you're angry just shows the immaturity level that you have to do that and be okay with it. Because a lot of couples are okay with that. And that's like the last thing you get, at least one of the last things you guys should be doing is going to bed angry. And it's just a big pet peeve of mine, because I've seen how it could ruin our marriage, but I've also seen how it's already ruined so many other marriages to people that I know and people that I've heard of before. And you see the underlying problem is like these people just don't want to forgive each other. They don't want to admit when they're wrong. And that pride is just ever present in their life. And that's what keeps them from saying sorry, asking for forgiveness.
When you do that, like when you hear the couples that go to sleep angry, they get so used to it to where it just happens like literally probably every other night where they get into a fight, okay, we're just gonna go to sleep. And they get so used to it where they don't see it as a problem anymore, which is great. That's the scary part.
Yeah, they see sleep as the solution. Yeah. If I just close my eyes, then I will wake up and my problems will disappear. You're living in fantasy land if you think like that. If you genuinely think that just by closing your eyes and waking up, your problems are gonna be gone, newsflash, that's just not how it works. If that's you, if you think that going to sleep angry solves all your problems, I'm gonna encourage you to try this instead. Fix the problems, be the bigger person to step up and apologize, ask for forgiveness, start that healing process. Don't go to sleep until you guys are healed and you guys are forgiving each other. Because like my wife said, the moment you guys do it once, you're gonna wanna do it twice, and then 3 times, and then 4 times. Nobody just, becomes this hard-hardened person by one night. It's step by step by step by step. It starts with these little things like this, things that you don't think are that bad. Going to sleep angry, that's gonna be one of the big underlying issues as to why you can't swallow your pride or why you can't forgive. It's because you started doing little things like this. And there's a reason the Lord adds that in there. You may think that's like a very specific thing to say. Don't go to bed angry. It's in there for a reason. Yeah. God tells us not to do that for a very specific reason, because he knows the division that can happen just over one night's sleep. All the division and the feelings that build up and get stirred and stored up for a later date for you to explode even bigger the next day. Gosh, I avoid that.
You're gonna have to wake up with that person in the morning. So you can't just avoid them, you're literally stuck with them.
This is not dating.
Yeah. You're gonna wake up to that person. So I know we've probably done that, once where we both went to sleep angry and the next day was just
it's happened. It's happened before, and that's why that's one of those things where I refuse to allow that to happen. And there's times where we're arguing at night and it's like 10 p.m. and the first thing I say is, don't think we're going to sleep.
I'm like,
and she doesn't even want to look at me. I'm like, we are not doing that. You already know that we're not doing that.
I'm tired. But yeah, he is very good at that. And thank God he is, because he is very strict on that rule, which is very good. Like very, very good. It's good that at least, you're strict with that, because if not, then I feel like it would probably be happening a lot more often. We don't fight a lot, but I'm just saying, like, if we got used to it.
That's a good disclosure. We don't fight a lot. We don't. I swear.
Let me make it clear.
I swear we don't. Please.
That is a good advice, though. Very good advice.
Yeah, that's what I've anybody that's getting married.
Yeah, I've noticed.
I've always say that. I say that to literally everybody. And again, it's always subjective. Everybody's gonna have their one bit of advice that they think is like right up there. For me, that's just what I've seen is like, oh gosh, I've just seen the destruction that it brings, and it's like, gosh, just don't go through that. Please avoid that. If you can just avoid that, please don't do that.
Yeah. And if the Lord says it, that means you have to follow it.
Yeah.
But
that's how it goes.
I'm just saying, because some people see it like, whatever.
It's like a tip, like an advice. It's more like advice. It's best. You probably don't want to do that. No, that's a command. It says don't let the sun go down on your anger. That's not asking, hey, pretty please, just don't do that. It's best to avoid it. No, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't.
Well, that's all we really had, the questions that we...
Yeah, those are the 4, those are the things that we could think of.
They're pretty good. Like, if people watch this video that are about to get married or are married, they'll probably learn something from this. I would hope so.
Yeah, and again, we're not perfect. Even though at one point she thought I was perfect, that's a great compliment, by the way. We're barely 5 years in, man. Just give us a break.
We're not. Be like, oh my gosh.
We are not know-it-alls. We do not have it all down. We're going to be the first ones to say that we have plenty of things that we need to fix, plenty of things that we need to work on. I'll be the first one to admit that I have plenty of problems and plenty of things that I need to work on to have a better marriage. But again, these are just things that we've experienced, that we're learning from, that we have learned in the past, that we're working on right now in the present, so that we can have a better future. That should be on a t-shirt. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna copyright that. Close it out.
No, not a
All right, guys. Well, if you've stayed all the way to the end, thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate your time. Hopefully you guys have learned something from this. If you guys are newlyweds, I know that was a lot to digest. Try to take at least one tip and see how that can implement to your life. Again, it may not mirror exactly into your marriage. Maybe it can be implemented in one way or another, but hopefully you've heard something that's even worth thinking about, even worth praying about with you and your spouse. And we'll see you guys again next time on the Covenant Cast. Thanks for watching.